Two ruthless bikers pulling into a sun-baked California gas station thought they'd spotted an easy mark when they began harassing the lone woman inside the convenience store. What they didn't know was that this woman was Sandra Bullock, and Leonardo DiCaprio was standing just yards away, watching every move. What he was about to do would ensure those two men would regret their poor choices for the rest of their lives. But before we dive in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if you love stories like this, hit subscribe, because tomorrow we've got another special tale waiting. It was a busy weekend in Hollywood. Beverly Hills streets were lined with luxury vehicles, photographers elbowed one another for the perfect shot, and fans pressed against barricades near red carpets, desperate for a glimpse of their idols. That night, one charity gala in particular drew all the attention. A star-studded fundraiser intended to support aspiring actors and filmmakers. The two names lighting up invitations the brightest were Leonardo DiCaprio and Sandra Bullock. The original plan had been simple: arrive separately, give interviews, then mingle. But just hours before the curtain time, Leo had a better idea. Instead of facing LA traffic solo, why not drive together? They'd skirt the worst congestion by taking the Pacific Coast Highway, where the only brake lights ahead were those of the ocean's waves. Behind the wheel of his crimson Ferrari, Leo sliced through the asphalt as the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting everything gold. For a little while, it felt like just two friends on a scenic cruise, an oasis of calm before the evening's buzz. But peace was about to shatter. Up ahead on the dash, the fuel warning glowed ominously. Leo frowned, tapping the panel. "I guess I got carried away," he admitted. Sandra peered at the gauge and laughed. "You forgot to fill up?" Leo shrugged. "Let's just say I valued the moment more than the tank." Sandra pointed off to the right. The lone gas station on that stretch of highway, its neon sign flickering as if on its last spark. The pump stood idle. The convenience store looked like it hadn't seen a customer in ages. Leo eased the Ferrari into the gravel lot, engine purring to a soft stop. Sandra snagged her sunglasses. "I'll grab us coffee," she said. He nodded. "I'll fill her up. See you inside." As Sandra pushed through the store door, the bell above chimed hollowly. Inside, the aisles were cramped, the shelves dust-coated. An old TV in the corner played a muted baseball game, and a country ballad drifted from the speakers. Outside, Leo clicked the fuel nozzle into the tank. In that moment, two figures leaning against their choppers at the edge of the lot spotted them. Leather-clad, shades on. One burly with a thick beard and tattoos, the other slim with a crooked grin and a gold tooth. They watched Sandra's every move. The convenience store felt eerily quiet as Sandra poured her coffee, the soft drip echoing in the narrow aisles. She hadn't noticed the two bikers approaching until one of them leaned casually against the counter beside her, the other lingering a few paces back. Well, look who we have here," the burly rider rumbled, cracking his knuckles as he regarded her with a leer. His companion, slimmer with a gold tooth, chuckled low in the background. Sandra's pulse quickened, but she kept her tone even. "Just grabbing a coffee. My friend's filling up outside." The big man gave her a slow, mocking clap. "All alone, eh? Doesn't look too safe." Sandra tilted her cup toward him, her composure intact. "I think I'll manage." She moved to step around him, but the skinny biker slid into her path, mirroring every stride. "Already leaving?" he drawled, blocking her exit. Sandra's jaw tightened. "If you're so concerned about my safety, you'll let me pass." Before either biker could reply, the door swung open with a metallic jingle. Leonardo DiCaprio strode in, each footstep deliberate, his expression calm but steely. The two men froze. From where he stood just inside the threshold, Leo's gaze flicked first to Sandra, checking she was unharmed, then locked onto the leather-clad aggressors. He advanced a step, his presence enough to make them shift uneasily. "Apologize to her," Leonardo said, his voice measured yet authoritative. The big biker blustered. "We were just messing around, no harm done." Leonardo took another step forward. The smaller man's bravado visibly faltered. He exchanged a glance with his friend. Finally, the one with the gold tooth muttered, "Sorry," the single word dripping humiliation. The burly rider scowled, but stepped aside. Without another word, both bikers retreated through the door. As they mounted their motorcycles outside, The skinny one shot Leonardo a final glare. "This ain't over." Sandra exhaled heavily, tension draining from her shoulders. Leonardo offered her a nod. "You okay?" She managed a half smile. "Thanks to you." Outside, the afternoon sun beat down on the bright red Ferrari. Leonardo slid into the driver's seat, Sandra beside him. As he started the engine, something on the ground caught his eye. A black motorcycle helmet, lying abandoned by the car's rear tire. Leo glanced at it, then at Sandra. No note, no message, just the helmet. He understood instantly. It was a warning, a promise that this wouldn't end here. Without a word, he eased the Ferrari onto the highway, and they pulled away. The engine's roar faded behind them, leaving the helmet to spin slowly in the dust. The Ferrari roared back onto the Pacific Coast Highway, its scarlet paint gleaming in the afternoon sun. Leonardo kept his gaze locked on the rearview mirror, his jaw set. He didn't need Sandra to tell him. They were being followed. Far behind, two sleek motorcycles emerged into view, their riders accelerating to match the Ferrari's pace. They weren't weaving through traffic or trying to overtake, just maintaining that silent, menacing hover. Leo eased off the throttle, letting the car decelerate by a few miles per hour. Immediately, the bikers reacted, closing in, testing his reflexes. Sandra's grip tightened on the door handle. "Hold on," Leo muttered. With calm precision, he downshifted and took the next winding exit ramp, a narrow, twisting road that snaked along the cliffs. Tires screeched as the Ferrari pivoted onto the smaller lanes. The bikers didn't hesitate. They followed. The road grew tighter, every curve demanding full concentration. Sandra peered over her shoulder. One biker rode dangerously close to the passenger door, his elbow inches from the glass. In a deliberate move, Leo tapped the brakes. The sudden slowdown unbalanced the nearer rider, whose front wheel slipped slightly on the gravel shoulder. With a quick correction, he regained control, but Leo had achieved his aim. He dictated the tempo now. Jamming the accelerator, Leo launched the Ferrari through the next turn, the rear end kicking into a controlled drift. Rocks and dust sprayed into the air, blinding the second rider long enough for Leo to gain a precious car-length lead. Sandra let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "That was incredible." Leo didn't smile. He scanned the mirror, only the winding road behind, no headlights. "They won't risk the bends," he said. "They'll back off." Sure enough, after a few miles, the highway opened onto a broader stretch. Leo eased up, and the bikes fell back into the shadows of the cliffside. He merged into traffic, the roar of other engines masking any trace of pursuit. Relief washed over Sandra, but Leo's eyes remained sharp. They drove in silence until the skyline of Beverly Hills slid into view. Soon, the twin towers of the luxury hotel loomed ahead, red carpets unfurling at the entrance. Traffic slowed. Leonardo guided the Ferrari into the valet lane, the engine's growl replaced by murmurs of admiration from onlookers. Reporters raised cameras. Guests in evening wear paused to gape. As they stepped out, the world's glamour enveloped them. But Leo's focus was elsewhere. He nodded to a uniformed attendant and slipped inside for the elevator ride down to the garage. The subterranean parking was hushed, lit by dim amber lights. He approached the Ferrari and froze. A long, jagged scratch marred the driver's side door, deep enough to see the primer beneath. Leo traced it with a fingertip. This damage wasn't accidental. It was revenge in silent form. He pocketed his phone, took a steadying breath, and returned upstairs. Back in the grand ballroom, laughter and champagne filled the air. Sandra spotted him and raised an eyebrow. "Where did you vanish to?" He lifted his glass. "I thought we'd toast, now that the worst is over." Sandra smiled but glanced at him curiously. "You sure it's over?" Leo's eyes flicked toward the entrance. Somewhere, buried in the night, the two bikers were plotting their next move, and he knew this story wasn't finished. Far from it. Hours later, the gala was in full swing. Glittering chandeliers, the murmur of champagne flutes, and laughter echoing through the grand ballroom. Sandra mingled confidently among the guests, her earlier ordeal fading like a distant memory. Leonardo lingered at the edge of the crowd, scanning the room before slipping away. He descended in silence to the underground parking, where the Ferrari rested under the dim glow of amber lights. As he approached, his breath caught. A long, jagged scratch marred the driver's door, the primer exposed beneath the scarlet paint. His fingertip traced its length. This wasn't a careless scrape. It was a deliberate message, a silent declaration that the confrontation was far from over. He straightened, pocketed his phone, and returned to the gala. Sandra spotted him near the entrance and raised an eyebrow. "Where did you disappear to?" she asked, amusement in her voice. Leo accepted a passing waiter's champagne glass, lifted it in a casual salute, and met her gaze. "To a private moment before our next toast, now that I think the worst is behind us." Sandra offered a playful smile, but studied him intently. "You don't look convinced." "Trust me," he said quietly. "Some battles aren't over when the weapons are put away." They clinked glasses, the crystal ringing clear over the soft music. Sandra sipped and relaxed, unaware that, in the silence of that parking garage, a single scratch had settled a conflict in a language only insiders understood, a warning delivered and a truce enforced without another word. If you enjoyed this tale of courage and quiet triumph, tap the screen now to explore more stories of hope, resilience, and the unseen battles that shape our world.